We've already stolen so many words from French, so many that they make up a third of the English vocabulary. But nevertheless, I think we've got room for some more. Here are my top 10 untranslatable French words that I think we should steal. Welcome to another Rob Words. Okay, before we start, just some terms and conditions. Those are both French words, by the way. Number 1. By untranslatable, I mean words for which we don't have a single word equivalent in English. When I say steal, I do not mean that French will have to stop using these words once we've pilfered them. 3, I've taken all of these from the French spoken in France, purely because it is the French that I know best. And 4, if you disagree with me about any of this, let me know in the comments. Okay, c'est parti. Let's go. At number 10, we're working backwards for added tension. Allow me to greet you into this video with a greeting. It is Rebonjour. See if you can guess what this one means before I tell you in a sec, because to do that, I'm firstly going to call in a favour from a friend. A French friend.
Et bonjour!
Julie, ça va?
Mais oui, mais ça fait plaisir de te voir.
This is Julie. She's a French teacher from the south of France, and she's going to help us get a proper French perspective on a few of these. So firstly, let's just ask her, what is Rebonjour?
I use Rebonjour a lot because sometimes I see my students in the morning and then I see them 2 hours later and I still have to greet them. So, Rebonjour.
So it's essentially hello again, but in a single word, and 3 syllables versus 4. It's more like saying re-hello, and if you happen to encounter someone for a second time after around, say, 5 or 6 o'clock, you can throw them a little rebonsoir, if you like, good evening. And if you are really pressed for time the second time round, I'm told that in either case, you can just say re. Easy. We don't have re-hello, so let's have rebonjour. Straight on to another untranslatable French word now. At number 9, it is gourmandise. So this word is related to words you will have heard in English, although perhaps delivered with a French flourish. Words like gourmet and gourmand. But la gourmandise has not found its way into our language yet, and we're all the poorer for it. La gourmandise is the enjoyment of good food. It is the activity of eating for eating's sake, of food for the fun of it. It's a word that could only have come out of France. Now, don't you be saying, hold on, Rob, isn't that just gluttony? Because no, even if it is admittedly included in the French list of the 7 deadly sins, but that was written ages ago. And by now, la gourmandise has taken on a somewhat sweeter flavour.
La gourmandise, it's not negative at all. It's a quality.
The implication there is that it's a little bit naughty, isn't it?
It's a little bit naughty, yeah. But it's good to be naughty in France. For food. Talking about food.
We might these days call someone a foodie, a rather lazy invention as words go. But that only describes the person. It's a decent translation of gourmand or gourmande. That's masculine and feminine. But it does not describe the behaviour. I've always thought it telling that English doesn't have its own version of bon appétit. It's almost as if we don't expect anyone to enjoy their deep-fried fish, deep-fried potatoes and slime. Although, my God, I love that stuff. And it's perhaps equally telling that we don't have a word for the guilt-free enjoyment of food. So let's stop grub-shaming one another and introduce the French word gourmandise. Gourmandise. Delicious. Up next, at number 8, and staying on a foodie theme, it is goûter. As a verb, goûter just means to taste, but as a noun, it becomes a daily delight.
There are little sort of meal times in France that we don't have elsewhere, and it sort of fits in with talking about gourmandise, but there's goûter, right? What happens at goûter?
So I have 4 meals a day, because I also have my goûter around 4 p.m. 4:30 is l'heure du goûter. You can have une madeleine, une pâtisserie, une viennoiserie. It's the sweet moment of the day.
Yes, le goûter is a little sweet treat taken in the late afternoon. I think it's mostly designed to keep children quiet between lunch and dinner after they come home from school, but plenty of French adults definitely enjoy it too. It's not a million miles off what we in England used to call tea or afternoon tea or forzers, a reference to the time of day. But no cups of Earl Grey and cucumber sandwiches at Goûter, just something to satisfy your sweet tooth, midway between déjeuner and dîner. If French kids get to have it, we should get it too. Okay, next, numéro 7, number 7. You've seen it in the names of restaurants and hair salons. It's Chez. You quite likely already know that putting Chez before someone's name on a shop sign, for example, is the same as putting place after it. But when you take it out of this formulaic two-word setup that we use it in English and put it in the context of a full French sentence, you see that it's playing a much more involved grammatical role. Unlike place, Chez is what's called a preposition. Prepositions are words like in or on or at or to, words which tell you about one thing's relationship with another. Only Chez is a preposition that we don't have an equivalent of. In English, I can say, I am going to the bakery, but also, I am coming to your house. However, in French, I would have to say, je vais à la boulangerie, where à equates to to, but je viens chez vous. Not à chez vous, not to chez vous, but just, I am coming chez vous. So what's the difference between the bakery, the boulangerie, and your place? Well, chez is the preposition that you use before the name of a person or before a direct reference to a person, like chez vous or the hairdresser, for example. Je vais chez le coiffeur. To replicate what the word chez actually does in French, in English we'd need to say to the place of. So what we require 4 words for, French manages with 4 letters. 4 letters, 4 words. 4 letters, 4 words. I'm convinced. Chez, viens chez nous. Now, if all these fabulous French words have given you a lust for language, I highly recommend you just try learning one. Learning French and German has enriched my life no end. And although it isn't easy, and don't believe anyone who tries to tell you that it is, there are plenty of tools out there to make it easier. And you can find them with this video's sponsor, Lingoda. Lingoda is an ideal way to quickly link yourself up with like-minded learners and talented language tutors, like my pal Julie, in fact, who's one of the teachers on there. Within just a few clicks, you can have signed up for your first lesson at a time that suits your schedule. I actually had one yesterday evening with a teacher in Quebec.
Exactement ça.
Funnily enough, the theme of the lesson was how to write an advert in French. From my experience, the best way to learn a language is to actually speak it. And Lingoda gets you doing that with wonderful human teachers in a really supportive environment. Plus, its 3 learning paths let you fit learning a language around your life, not the other way around. So use my discount code RobWords25 to get $25, 20 euros, 15 quid, or whatever your local currency equivalent is off lessons with Lingoda and boost your language learning today. I'll stick a link in the description. Let's get to it. On y va. Okay, in at number 6/6, and actually only 1 letter shy of either of those, is the shortest word on our list. It is the tiny and mighty si. Now, si has a couple of meanings in French. One is just if, for which our word is already doing a perfectly good job. But the other, well, that one's a little harder to explain. It means yes, a bit like it does in Spanish and Italian, but at the same time, nothing like it does in Spanish and Italian. In French, si sits alongside oui and does its own special little job. Let's say rebonjour to Julie. She can help us out with this one.
So si is a form of oui, but oui is affirmative. Si, I would say si is affirmative.
I love this explanation. So oui is affirmative. You use it to affirm what someone has just said to you. You like Doritos, right? Oui. Yes. Affirmative. Whereas as Julie says, si is infirmative, meaning you use it to infirm, a word we don't use that often, meaning render void, whatever has just been said to you. So, to negate it. You don't like chocolate biscuits, do you? See, I bloody well do. See is the word you use to turn a negative on its head.
You don't like pizza? Si, j'aime la pizza. You see?
Who doesn't like pizza?
Who does not?
So why do I reckon we need see for ourselves? Well, because in such situations, our current system is not fit for purpose. It's ambiguous. If I say to you, mate, you still haven't subscribed to my channel, then you reply with, yes. You can mean either, yes, you're right, I haven't, in which case, better fix that now. Or it can mean, yes, I have. You're wrong, Rob. In which case, thank you. Likewise, using no would be just as ambiguous, but in reverse. However, see would mean I was left in no doubt that I was wrong in my assertion and that you have already subscribed. And I'd love you for it. By the way, I went off on a rant about see and the German equivalent, the bombastic doch, in another video. And a few people said, well, we do have a way to do that in English. We can just say wrong or rubbish or bullshit. While those are undoubtedly unambiguous, try using those without sounding rude. Whereas in French, you can use si without sounding like a trou de cul, an asshole.
It's not rude at all, no. And it makes you sound Spanish or Italian, so.
And that is why we need it. Our next word is all about politeness. It is tutoyer. So here I am talking to you, and I'm referring to you as you. But if I were speaking French now, I would have a choice to make. To either refer to you as tu, or to refer to you as vous. Tu is the informal you, and vous is the formal you. Once I've concluded that you and I are good friends by now, and that I am going to address you as tu, in French, we could say that we've decided to tutoyer, to address each other in informal terms using tu. If, however, I've decided to afford you all of the respect you undoubtedly deserve and have resolved to refer to you as vous, I have opted to not tutoyer, but vouvoyer. Tutoyer and vouvoyer are arguably the most untranslatable words on this list because their usage relies on a grammatical concept that English simply doesn't have. If you don't have a formal and informal you, you can't have equivalents to these two words. But hold on a second, because we may not have a formal and informal you now, but we used to. You see, this whole time I've been referring to you as you, I've essentially been vouvoyering you. You see, traditionally, you was the formal term of address, and the informal version was thou. So to tutoyer in English would mean to refer to someone as thou. Indeed, the word has been used in English to mean just that. Look at this quote from a Victorian article about dialects in Northern England. It says, tutoying still pervades South Lancashire, a reference to the fact that at the time it was still common to refer to people as thou or thee there, something that actually still happens in parts of the north of England today. It's true. I tell thee. Now, I realise I'm dangerously close to advocating for the return of the use of thou, but I don't actually want to go that far. What I do want to suggest, though, is that we resurrect the word tutoyer in English, or maybe even this 17th century anglicised version, tutoying. I like that. But not to refer to using the word thou with one another, like a Yorkshireman or a Quaker nowadays, but to just refer to speaking to one another informally. At work, we mind our manners. At the pub, we tutoyer. What dost thou think? Up next, number 4, and another untranslatable action. Connaître. Any French learner can tell you that connaître is a commonly used verb and that it means to know. Simple. Except that it isn't, because this word, savoir, is also a commonly used verb and it also means to know. However, Connaître and savoir are not interchangeable. You see, French, like quite a lot of other European languages, distinguishes between two different types of knowledge in a way that English does not. French speakers, without even thinking about it, effortlessly differentiate between knowledge of people and places and knowledge of facts or of how to do something. So if in French I wanted to express that I know you, that we are acquainted, I would use the verb connaître. But if I wanted to express that I know, say, your precise weight, that'd be weird, but I would use savoir. Je sais combien tu pèses. Another example, je connais Paris. I know Paris because I've been there. But je sais que Paris est la capitale de la France. I know that Paris is the capital of France. Check me out. Two different types of knowledge, two different verbs in French.
Connaître is all about cognition.
Cognition, that's the word.
Savoir, c'est un verbe. So, savoir, savoir, it's a verb. It's also a noun, le savoir, meaning the knowledge. We say in French, savoir-faire, savoir-être.
Yeah, in fact, you might have heard terms like savoir-faire used in English. It means know-how, or more literally, to know how to do. But those aren't the only places where savoir makes itself known in English. For example, the word savvy, that Jack Sparrow favourite,
savvy,
shares a Latin origin with savoir. We actually get it via the Portuguese version of that word. Meanwhile, connaître also has relatives in English already. Julie mentioned cognition, but also the word knowledge itself comes from the same ancient Proto-Indo-European root as connaître. But actually, I think the closest related word we have that helps us understand the French verb is our word recognise. Connaître is like to recognise, but without the r bit. Conceptually complicated, but useful once you've got the knack. Having savoir and connaître saves on ambiguity in sentences like, I know French. Do I mean that I know of the existence of French? Or do I mean that I have knowledge of how to speak it? I'm not telling you. Perhaps to ease the transition, we could get into the habit of using cognise for this purpose. Ah, Paris. I cognise it well. By the way, if you're thinking that having these two verbs makes French inherently more nuanced than English, think again, because the pendulum swings back the other way when you consider that French doesn't differentiate in the way that we do between to do and to make. I am doing my homework, je fais mes devoirs. I am making a cake, je fais un gâteau. So French is welcome to do a swap with us if it likes. It can have make, but we're taking connaître, or cognise, in his work. Okay, let's make some more headway on our list. And we're into the top 3 with flâner. This is a gorgeous one. It's another verb, another word for an action. And flâner means to go for a walk with no other purpose than to observe your surroundings as you go. It's not a hike and it's not rambling because it's a city activity born out of 19th century Paris. And it's not simply a stroll because it's deeper than that.
In France, if you are un flâneur, you are un rêveur, a dreamer. And you are also a poet, maybe, un flâneur.
One poet who is a self-confessed flâneur was Charles Baudelaire, who described it as an almost artistic activity in itself. He said the flâneur was the passionate observer, taking up residence in the many, the undulating, the moving, the fleeting, and the infinite. It's being at the centre of the world, but also at the same time hidden from the world. An anonymous onlooker among the crowd. Okay, that's all a bit fancy pants, I know, but you can see it's more than just a stroll. So next time you're in the big city, why not try being a flâneur or a flâneuse? And while you're at it, use the word flâner. Okay, while we're on the move, let's move towards our number 2, dépaysement. If we were to invent an English equivalent of this word, it would be something like decountrification. Dépaysement is a feeling you get when you're far away from home.
Dépaysement is the sensation you feel when you are outside of your country, outside of your pays. Dépaysement. It's a positive thing because you are enjoying a new place, a new landscape, but it can be also negative because you can feel lost or away from your native land.
So we've got the negative side of that covered, haven't we? It is homesickness. But we don't have a word for the positive feeling of being outside of your normal environment. And actually, even though the word contains the French word for country, pays, you can feel dépaysé just about anywhere, inside your own country or even inside your own home, if you change the decor enough.
Oh my God.
It's a bit like disorientation, but without the implied negativity. It can be negative or positive. In its positive sense, dépaysement is untranslatable into English in a single word. And that is why I think we should abduct it from its own usual environment and welcome it into our language. Okay, and here we are. We've reached the top, the creme de la creme of the French words I think we should steal. And it is the beautiful bouquiner. No, it's not a French swimming garment. Bouquiner is an activity reserved for people like you and me. Reserved for us word nerds. T-shirt in my shop. Because bouquiner is the enjoyment of books. Got to stop undressing during videos. Bouquiner doesn't apply to the diligent study of a university textbook or the focused devouring of War and Peace, both of which clearly have their place, by the way. Bouquiner is more leisurely than that. It is the gentle leafing through of a book just for the pleasure of it. Un bouquin is another word for a book, but not one they generally teach you in school. It is a casual alternative to un livre. You might actually be thinking, hold on, bouquin is quite similar to the word book, isn't it? And you'd be right to point that out. It was almost certainly borrowed from English's sister language, Dutch. But French has taken that word and built a whole literary world around it. You can have a bouquin, but you can also have a bouquiniste. That's one of the sellers of second-hand books you see on the streets of Paris. And you can also have this verb, bouquiner, to read a book for the gentle pleasure of it. My untranslatable French word, number 1. Thank you so much to Julie for helping us make sense of some of those. We actually had a little chat about funny French sayings that I couldn't work into this video, so I'm going to pop it up on my Patreon and you can find it there. Thanks to you for watching and for also being charitable about my French accent. If you want to hear me mispronouncing more words in a similar fashion, you should check out my video about untranslatable German words too. Or otherwise, if you've perhaps already seen that one, check out this video instead. And I will bid you a rebonjour when I see you over there. Until then, à la prochaine.